Hey everyone, it's a great pleasure to be joined here by Edmund and Sylvia after such a stunning performance this evening. So thank you guys for taking a little bit of time to chat with me. And as you'll notice, it's daylight completely. So we're actually pre-recording this since Sylvia has a rehearsal this evening and won't be able to join us live. So we're just going to chat a little bit now. And if you have any comments during this conversation, feel free to put them into the chat and we can respond by typing. That's totally fine. But anyway, thanks guys. How do you feel about all of this?
We're just really excited and grateful to have an opportunity to do a shared recital. It's like, it's a dream gig.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Edmund and Sylvia are married, so we have followed all COVID protocols with them standing and singing next to each other, and now, of course, uh, being together from their home here in Baltimore. Sylvia, have you done many of these types of projects during COVID?
I haven't. Well, I've done a lot of, you know, performances that were disseminated virtually,
Mhm.
but I have not done a lot of art song, and certainly nothing that was like all solo music the way that this was. So that was really like the opportunity to do a full song cycle was really exciting for me, and I just really love that kind of work. For me, it sort of like walks a nice line between like opera and concert type work, and those usually you have to choose between one or the other of those things, and art song is kind of this middle space that I really love. So this was really exciting for me.
Same here. I think that no matter who you are, art song is a difficult type of work to get. And although we love to do it, it's just not as common to have audience demand for that as it is for like big concert works or choral things or sacred music. So it's a limited slice of what we do, even though it's very close to our hearts.
And the two of us have never had the opportunity to split a program just between the two of us. So that was really fun.
Yeah, I was surprised when I asked you guys to consider doing this, that I just assumed you would want to do a whole program of duets or something. And you each came back with an art song proposal. Now, admittedly, I kind of twisted Edmund's kind of hand into doing the Vaughan Williams, but we did get to do some duets at the end. But tell me about how you kind of settled on these songs, Sylvia, besides just being on your bucket list. What about them?
I don't. Well, I've only done one other Mahler song cycle. I did the Kindertotenlieder on my grad recital, and that was like a really big like. It was it was a growth project. Like it made me like grow as a musician and performer to learn and perform those. Um, and I mean, they're obviously not. They don't have like a sacred element to them the way that the mystical songs do. Like most people will know the mystical songs from them being excerpted for church services and performed with choir, and that is very much not the case with the Mahler. But there's something I think I thought that they made a nice like aesthetic and like a nice musical and a nice sort of thematic pairing with the Vaughan Williams because the kind of journey. I think the journey of the wayfarer is is a spiritual journey and is like his sort of loneliness, his or her loneliness is uh, I think I think can be viewed through a spiritual lens.
Mhm.
And Mahler and Vaughan Williams both have this kind of I don't want want to say something stupid, but like, because I don't know that much about either of them, like music history. I'm not an expert on either of them. I have done my like cursory student research, but um, I do think of them both as favoring this kind of like rich rich musical texture and kind of like quasi-romantic or late romantic style. Both of them wrote orchestral song, which is just not a genre that a lot of composers partook in. So that was, that and the fact that I really wanted to learn these songs and get a chance to perform them.
And Edmund, for you, the mystical songs were, to my surprise, a new project for you. And I wonder if you might just talk a little bit about what that journey was like.
Right. I've sung the choral arrangements of most of them before, but had not had an opportunity to do the solo arrangements. And certainly, if you had not suggested them, they probably would not have been the first thing that came to my mind. But I had such a great time getting to know them better, and I think that my feelings about Vaughan Williams probably really like evolved over the course of the project from my starting point, the idea that we had talked about when I was just getting to know the songs. I remarked that that Vaughan Williams seemed like a sort of aesthetic middle point between Howells and Rudder.
Yeah.
Which I think is not entirely untrue.
I agree.
Yeah. I never intended it in any sort of a disrespectful way either, but like I've really come to view him as something special in his own right. These songs are so rich, especially I really enjoyed getting to know the poem and the song of number 3 in the cycle. George Herbert is a very cool poet. I mean,
absolutely.
Kind of linked with the metaphysicals. I've always enjoyed the density of the poems made by the so-called metaphysical poets. And the best thing about these songs for me was they are written so smoothly for the voice. And as somebody who is frequently asked to sing a lot of things in my lower range, because I'm a bass baritone and people often need a low bass, it was refreshing to get to really embody the baritone part of my voice.
Proper baritone, yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean,
in a context that is so firmly supported by those piano parts. Yeah, great pieces.
Yeah, they are. And I mean, you both did so masterfully, like exploring the entire range. I mean, the way, Sylvia, that you just float on those really high kind of portions of the Mahler is just incredible. And the power, Edmund, that you bring to the Vaughan Williams, just so, it was great joy to make music with you. So.
Thanks so much. It was for us.
And with the Vaughan Williams, I mean, there are so many different kind of performance possibilities for those, like with choir or without, or with orchestra, or with organ, or with piano, or with whatever. And it's nice to kind of be able to explore probably the most intimate of the versions with just piano and soloist. And it's one that most people don't do because, Sylvia, as you remarked before with the Vaughan Williams, most people hear them excerpted, within the context of church services, since most of them are done by choirs along the way.
Right, and a few months ago, you and I had the opportunity to perform the 4th song of the Vaughan Williams in an organ and voice solo. I mean, it's the same transcription, but you played the organ, and that works so well for that song. But the more I got to know the whole cycle, the more I felt that if you had to choose just one keyboard instrument for all 5 songs, the piano works a bit better. I mean, course, the last song. But yeah, I think numbers 3 and 5 especially call for the piano.
Yeah, I mean, I think it works in so many different ways, and this is, as I say, one of the versions that is less often explored. So I'm so happy that we're able to share this with people in such a well-polished format. So,
And I think more intimate than normal because there wasn't even any audience.
Exactly, right? It's just us, some candles, and Nick and Sean, our crew. So who again do an amazing job for us. So thank you to both Nick and to Sean, especially right now since they produced 7 hours of material for us.
The thing about it is knowing that it was going to be rendered so perfectly in the digital medium. So we're excited to see it.
Absolutely. So Edmund, wonder if you might just talk for a moment about what brought you to Baltimore to DC and how you ended up here after being in Montreal.
Continue to work as a freelancer and do non-military musical projects, and they've become all the more enjoyable because they are not 7 days a week for me anymore.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, during normal kind of non-COVID times, and presumably we are kind of inching our way back in that direction, like what is the routine of a member of the Army chorus? Because I was surprised to learn that you had, like, you're a commissioned officer and don't know the technicalities of military lingo, but...
Well, that's classified. Well, we in normal times we DC and Arlington. There are other military. The purpose of the U.S. Army Band is to provide support to ceremonial important functions in India or the White House or the Pentagon. Sing the national anthem a lot.
A lot.
Yeah. It's a fascinating job. The circumstances that you get to be in and the people that you perform for. It's gratifying to know that you're part of history unfolding in a way. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sylvia, I assume you came to Baltimore because Edmund was here. But I wonder what about the city and being in this area is stimulating for you?
Oh, I mean, I have just found, so before I moved here a year and a half ago, I was living in Boston where I lived for 3 years during and after my master's, which I did at BU. And I found that, I found the freelance, especially the early music and choral music scenes here, to be very welcoming and close knit in a way that's not cliquey. And I mean, every city kind of has its own, like every major city that has art music going on sort of has its own kind of culture, and I think that there are wonderful things about all of them. And the idea of moving, I grew up around DC, and so the idea of moving back to this area had not really occurred to me until I came to visit Edmund when we first started dating, and and he was like, "Do you want to sub at my church job?" And I did sub at the church job, and then I got hired at the church job, and it really sort of, the decision just kind of became really, really easy and obvious in a way that I never would have imagined that it would. Yeah.
Yeah, and you've acquired a new. Well, you've got a cat that is new in your life, right? I was trying to think of a clever way of like suggesting that. Tell us about Fanny is the name, I think, right?
Yeah. Fanny, we thought maybe we would make an appearance during this chat, but she is absolutely stretched out, elongated in a sunbeam upstairs on the bed.
Perfect.
Yeah, we got a cat 2 months ago. We were recording a project with a quartet that we sing with, and we had been doing a piece by Fanny Hensel. And we hadn't named the cat yet. We had gotten her the day before. We were like hanging out after the recording session. We were just like, oh my God, Fanny. It's a perfect name for the cat.
There we go. Yeah. And how has your life changed now that there are 3 of you at home?
There's just so many more moments in the day when I feel super happy because like she just brings so much joy, and like,
yeah, you never feel alone.
Yeah.
Even when one of us is out on a gig or something, there's always Fanny.
There's always company.
So what do you look forward to most once now COVID is starting to recede, hopefully, and like what have you missed, or what do you look forward to?
There's a lot. I mean, we are looking forward to being fully vaccinated in a couple of weeks, and I haven't seen my parents. They live in New Mexico. I haven't seen them in over a year. I feel lucky that I was able to see them like a couple of weeks before everything shut down. But they're going to be fully vaccinated in 2 weeks, and they're finally going to come visit us. So I'm excited to see them. I hope that, a few months down the line that we can have actual audiences at the performances. Like I said that thing about it being really intimate when I was recording, because you're just performing for I was just performing for Edmund and the crew, which is nice. But I also I found that I always felt like I kind of got my best take, especially from a dramatic perspective, in the first take. And any take that I did after that, I felt like lost some of its just energy, some of performance. That's a really hard thing about doing recorded gigs, and I am looking forward to our art form being ephemeral again.
Absolutely.
We all kind of feel like broken records saying that we're looking forward to live musical performance coming back. I mean, we both feel lucky to have done as much performing as we have over the past year. I think that it's maybe a kind of special thing about the DC metropolitan area and Baltimore that the opportunities to perform have not completely vanished. Maybe that has to do with institutions like the virtual recital series you have going on at Emmanuel, and even some ensemble things that we do in DC. But I have not sung with a choral ensemble larger than 12 people in 13 months now. So,
and those are 12 people that have all been tested and are wearing masks and are standing far apart from
each
other.
Yeah.
And no audience. So it's not the same.
It's not the same.
I mean, the fact that they're tested, that's not so bad, but the masks and the distance, that,
it kind of just puts this kind of not artificial barrier. It is a barrier, in lots of ways, between people. When so much about performing is about kind of feeling the energy of the other person. If the other person is not there, same thing with the audience, right? If the audience is not there, there's this void, right?
Yeah, and I think that there are some things that we've in and outside of music, there are things that we've learned from the pandemic that will endure after it. And thinking about this recital, this is something that I think would be a totally cool thing to do even when there's not a pandemic. And when the production value is so carried far and wide, and there was no real impediment on our music making. Art song just requires 2 people in the same room doing that. So hopefully it will be not a replacement of the things that we've been doing for the
Yeah.
past year, but the addition of the things that we miss.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And there's a restaurant that we really, really want to go back to. Able to go to.
And which one is that, Sylvia?
There's this amazing Italian restaurant on the Jones Falls called Cosima that they have a really spectacular happy hour that is not available if you sit outside. And we just we had the most amazing meals there, and the staff has been, so this is my public and advertisement for that restaurant. They better not go out of business.
Well, hopefully not, fingers crossed, and hopefully everything's back to normal before we know it. But in the meantime, as you say, we're so grateful for the opportunities that COVID has presented, which are things like this recital series, and hopefully we'll be able to continue doing things like this even after life kind of reverts to whatever is the new normal or whatever that is. But such a joy to make music with each of you, and look forward to many opportunities in the future. And but thank you for just such a stunning performance this evening.
You too.
Thank you, Christian.
Yeah, thanks.